Greetings, one and all, to the most cursed, most cringiest corner of the internet. A YouTube channel content creator actively alienating everyone in both the analog and digital world. Well, welcome and good evening, wonderful dice of all alignments. I am a Lunar D8. Not yet. Don't give up this desperate struggle yet. Who cares about whoever's raven? They're just trying to confuse me by bringing up weird bits of trivia. I used the devil's proof. Don't feel uncertain about something you've used once. Believe in the spear you've drawn, and then, forcefully, gouge it in. We're still in the opening part of the game. Do you plan to keep thinking on this level? Wait a sec. I want to be sure. I'll admit I talked about a 19th person to keep it simple, but if we're going to use the devil's proof to raise the number of people above 18, then we'd have no way of knowing if there were 10 people, 100 people, or an indeterminate number of people. There's always one more than you assume. Get it? They countered my twisted logic with something even more twisted. So the only thing that could counter that would be even crazier twisted logic. I see. Even if I somehow prove an alibi for the 19th person, as soon as I do, you will think up a 20th person and claim that they are the culprit. By repeating this endlessly, you would make it so I kept searching for their alibis for all eternity. I see. Just like a demon king summoning a plague of locusts. I wouldn't expect anything less from Kinzo's grandchild. It looks like you have been gifted with a talent in summoning. In short, it's impossible to always prove an alibi for each person X outside of the first 18. How do you like that, Beato? Now that I know we're having a battle with twisted logic, I won't lose. How foolish. It just makes me want to read, like from TV tropes. Who do you think I am? I am the Endless Witch. The thought that you could challenge me endlessly is just absurd. Endless control means that I am able to kill endlessly. When your 19th person folds, you will summon a 20th. And when your 20th person folds, you will summon a 21st. And when your 21st person folds and your 22nd person folds, you will summon a 23rd person and a 34th person and a... Give me a moment. Okay, but it's... Okay, 64 quadrillion, 358 trillion, 223 billion, 579,673,204th person. Did you think you'd have me at your mercy for all eternity? I laugh at infinite regress. The infinite doesn't work against me. Well then, how will you kill my endless? Just try and show me. Did you stab him? I have the power to speak the truth in red. Here it comes. When I speak in red, it will contain absolutely no illusions. If I say once in red there are no more than 100 people on this island, you will no longer be permitted to create a 101st person. See, Battler, what truth shall I tell in red this time? Where shall I strike for the kill and force you into hopelessness? Come, show me your usual frightened face. What? Why are you laughing? I wonder what kind of creepy look I had on my face as I laughed right then. That red sure is scary. Every time it jumps out, I'm driven into the depths of hopelessness. But I've already realized something. There's no need to be overly afraid of the red. You've brought out your trump card again. I think we actually scared Beatrice slightly there. So, how and for what will Beatrice-sama use the red this time? Huh. Again, it looks like she's constipated and trying to take a shit on the toilet. What do you mean by that? Suddenly looking so relaxed. Sorry, but I was waiting for you to take out that blood-red treasured sword of yours. Let's see what you'll proclaim this time in red. You aren't going to say the culprit was one of the 18 people, are you? Be careful, since that means self-destruction for you, right? That'd be the same as throwing away your own witch theory yourself. A complete resignation. That's right. The red wasn't always a weapon that worked in Beato's favor alone. It was the other way around. If she used it the wrong way, it was dangerous enough that she could bring about her own death. If she used it carelessly and said something that ended up denying herself, that'd be exactly the same as self-destructing. Of course, it'd be sad and difficult for me to accept if you told me in red that one of the 18 was the culprit. No matter who the culprit actually was, I'd definitely have to deal with some tough emotions. But before that, it would mean your defeat. Saying in red that the culprit is a human is equivalent to your proclamation of resignation. If you wanted us to finish each other off in a simultaneous clash, I'd say that's a pretty interesting move. However, this particular battle will end in my victory. Beatrice's red was her true trump card. When that person speaks in red, it's definitely the truth, and no amount of proof or counter-arguments can change that. Until now, she's used that to severely wound me, and each time the tiny foundation supporting my heart gets split in half. However, if she uses it carelessly, then I can also glean a little information about the truth. In the last game, I used that to my advantage, especially during the chapel's closed room trick, and almost completely got her boxed in at one point, but she was pretty sly herself. She learned from experience, and since then she started using discretion in the timing of her red. This feeling of tension was almost literally like a battle of real swords. This is a high-level intellectual battle. No, not an intellectual battle. This really is twisted logic. This was the world's craziest and worst battle of twisted logic. Okay, now it's time to hear your plan. That's right, to use your Hempel's Raven. First, you'll have to confirm in red how many humans there are other than the 18. And after that, if you proclaim in red that none of the people in this group are the culprit, that's right, that might be a fatal wound to me. I'm surprised you no longer have even an atom of fear for the red, which once terrified you so much. You're quite resilient. Try taking it out. That treasured sword, that trump card of yours. This time you might be able to make me surrender with a single stroke, right? Cackle. Interesting. I wouldn't have it any other way. Agitate her, challenge her, make her make a mistake. Drive her into a corner to make her speak in red. Of course, her red's always wiping out my only rays of hope. But don't be afraid of that. On this island overcome with falsehoods and illusions, the only thing I can trust is the information she speaks in red. It's my only way across the chasm of hell. Just a single tightrope. Her merciless blood-red blade is the only way I can survive. This isn't just walking on a tightrope, it's like literally walking on the edge of a blade. Of course I'm afraid, because my victory condition is the denial of witches. Then, to use her contrapositive logic, the culprit must be human, but I didn't want to search for a culprit amid the 18. That's what made me stick to a weak position, since I had to claim both that it couldn't be a witch and that it couldn't be one of the 18. Last time I was unable to understand that, so that's where she hit me, leaving me tattered and defeated. But that's okay. Let her hit me. Let her attack. No problem. Someone said it once in an old sword-fighting movie that a good fortress has one and only one intentionally weak point. The enemy would gather there. They would be lured there. And that would be there where the actual battle took place. As long as I understood my weak points, and as long as she wanted to attack those weak points, it was as if I were luring her into launching an attack there. Gauge the distance between us with care, retreating step by step, make them move forward. The more she recklessly flourished that red, the more chances I would get to strike back. Don't be afraid of the red. Keep her cornered, so that she'll have no choice but to refute me with the red. No matter how oppressively she speaks in red. That's right, that red itself is the same as fresh blood leaking from her wounds. So, what's wrong? First of all, why don't you tell me how many people are on this island in total? If you don't, your raven can't cut me up. Humph. How surprising that you can be this desperate and yet this difficult. One cannot make light of someone putting their life on the line, no matter what the era. It's no surprise you're Kinzo's grandchild. The more cornered you are, the bolder you become. Ulanove cleared his throat. It appears to be a stalemate. That black tea I worked so hard to make is getting cold, milady. No. Renove, who was supposed to be her ally, roguishly rushed her into making her next move. Again, I feel like this guy wants me to beat her. Granted, this guy probably not a good person in his own merits, but for the most part, he's been polite to me, so I appreciate that. And honestly, he probably hates her much more than I do. Heck, if we were put in a position where like I had Beatrice at my mercy, I'd be more likely to show her clemency, whereas this guy, I don't think he'd be as soft-hearted as I am. But I think he wants... And that's the thing, several of the people that are either supposed to be working for her or came by out of entertainment and said they'd assist her are all working against her because it seems that she rubs people just ever so slightly the wrong way. Beato probably thought she'd managed to smile back and appear confident, but she couldn't hide the sweat building up on her forehead. By now, she had completely lost the confident feeling that had allowed her to turn her nose up at her worthless opponent. Of course, she probably wouldn't be cornered by something like this. She's just being cautious. Until now, I've been inexperienced. I didn't know how to fight, and I wasn't strong enough to be her opponent. However, now that we've reached the third game, she's realized that I'm starting to become more skilled, and she's grown more cautious, thinking every move over carefully. Sure, that's just fine, Beatrice. Sorry to keep you waiting. Are you happy now? You finally have some good entertainment. Now it's starting to get interesting, huh? Battler. This isn't getting us anywhere. Then should we get to the heart of the matter and go with the usual? Ho? The usual, you say? Then by all means. If I don't hear you say that, I guess I just won't feel like starting. The first move was mine. Here I go, Beato. Repeat it. On this island, there are only 18 people. If I hear you say this in red, I'll have no choice but to suspect one of the 18. I won't be able to say a 19th person did it, so all doors will be closed to me. However, I believe the culprit definitely isn't one of the 18. There's no way any of those 18 could commit such brutal murders. I'll say it again. Repeat it. On this island, there are only 18 people. I refuse. I won't say why. Phew. I'd avoided what would have been the worst red for me. If she'd repeated that, I'd be faced with those two worst choices of accepting the witch or suspecting one of the 18, like last time all over again. But Beato hadn't proclaimed my ultimate and greatest weakness in red. She refused to repeat it, even though there was no reason for her not to strike. Even though it was a weakness she should have been drooling at. She hadn't sliced me up with red by using that move, which should have been as good as forking a rook and the king. This was a big sign of my advantage. That's right. The culprit isn't one of the 18. I won't suspect anyone. And since the culprit isn't a witch either, it means a 19th person exists on this island. The problem is, it's possible the 19th person is the culprit, but it is possible that one of the 18 is an accomplice. And that's you. A person who, as grandfather's mistress of 30 years, has been secretly living in a hidden mansion in the forest for a long, long time. The human Beatrice. That's right. You aren't a witch or anything like that. How do you explain that we're in a fucking hyperbolic time chamber at the moment, having a discussion with a butler who served us cookies and tea that we didn't eat because we don't trust Beato? Like, what about the time loops? What about the hyperbolic time chamber? Like, I could... Okay, yeah, we could say, like, there's a bunch of people dressed as goats. That's fine. But let's be clear. Even if it's 100 dudes dressed in goat masks, they still fucking tore people apart and ate their flesh like cannibal style. Whether or not it's demons from hell or, you know, fucking... What's that movie? Texas Chainsaw Massacre, or The Hills Have Eyes. It's like, at the end of the day, I don't care if the zombies eating my flesh are actually zombies, or, you know, or like, oh, these are zombies by the T-virus from Resident Evil, or these are the fungal zombie people from The Walking Dead or something. It's like, I don't care whether it could be like people on fucking meth. It's like, it doesn't matter. They're still eating my flesh. You know, it's kind of a moot point. So at the end of the day, it's like, yes. But it's like, there are certain things, like, obviously we can't admit she's a witch. Granted, I fully, yes. I see no problem with it in of itself, but the fact that it's considered a lose condition for us that she then is able to use to hurt us, and the fact that she's not a nice person. But more importantly, it's just the fact that... How do we explain the fact that we're in a hyperbolic time chamber right now? How do we explain the time loops? You're just a human who's been living on this island and hiding for several decades, who apparently has stolen stuff from Goku or something. Cackle. Did you just call me the endless witch who has lived for over... Did you? I don't remember that. No, he didn't. Did you just call me the Endless Witch who has lived for 1,000 years? A human. Oh, okay. I was... Okay, Okay, I misunderstood how she phrased that at first. Okay, did you just call me, the Endless Witch, who has lived for over 1,000 years, a human? For a while, Beatrice continued to laugh unpleasantly and gloatingly, or maybe spitefully. Are you ready? I'll keep going. Again, repeat it. There are 19 or more people on this island. Beatrice fell silent once again. She'd probably remain extremely cautious as long as confirming the number of humans on this island might give her some large disadvantage, depending on the situation. The red has already become a foothold for my counterattacks. Now that we know this, it makes the red very risky for the witch, but if she couldn't repeat her Hempel's Raven wouldn't be effective. To break my devil's proof, she would need to settle the existence and number of people outside the 18 in red. That's right. She couldn't break the existence of a 19th person unless she used red. I have closed Beato in, giving her no choice but to speak in red. There really is a way to fight in this witch's game. It's okay to refuse. If you can't say it in red, that means there's a total of 18 plus X people on this island. And that X is a pretty massive piece to lose on your first move, right? After all, from now on, all the tricks that were impossible for the 18 can be explained with a human X, who isn't in that group, or Mega Man X. This huge piece can break open all the rooms you said were closed because everyone had an alibi. It was just like how a chess bishop can cut a thin line through enemy forces as long as there's a slight gap. It could only be effectively used on squares of the same color, but it was very good at controlling territory on the board. How do you make that sound? It looked like Beato also noticed her current plight. She couldn't just let such an important piece go, especially this close to the beginning of the game. If she pulled out her red treasure sword, it wouldn't be that difficult to save herself from this, but Beato was completely aware that I was expecting it. She was afraid that a careless red truth might end up strangling her own neck, because in the first place a witch is something that ought to be denied in red. Believe. Don't doubt. Witches don't exist. Something like that couldn't exist in this world. They can only exist in the valleys between truth. They have a fragile existence. Yes, fragile or fragile? Curled up in these cracks, frantically trying to protect themselves from the brutal winds of truth. And they can only barely exist like a mirage by surviving on falsehoods and illusions. I personally believe in the existence of, magic and witches and angels and demons and ghosts and stuff. That being said, healthy skepticism is important because not every supernatural thing is something supernatural, but the supernatural does exist. Like I said, the only reason why I'd be against admitting the supernatural stuff in the context of this story is the fact that once you admit it, bad things happen to you. So, in other words, the red, which only witches can use, is the reality that might easily deny their very being. The more they brandish their red words, the more they begin to lose bit by bit that crack in truth, inside which they can endure. That's why they don't want to use red words and carelessly lose the crack in truth, which is based on fuzzy information or illusions. In other words, that's because they understand that they gradually being cornered. Of course, that bastard will never admit it, because if she did, it'd be the same as admitting that she's something that can't exist in this world, like an imaginary number. Don't be afraid. But imaginary numbers do exist. Stay strong. I know that she's the one who's really been pierced to the bone. After all, her red treasure sword can't be used without a lot of preparation. What's wrong? I'll say it again. Repeat it. There are 19 people or more on this island. Huh. I refuse. At the end of Beato's worrying, she took a single deep breath and quietly announced her refusal. I'd thought she'd use it, but Beato refused to speak in red even though it would cost her victory in the opening part of the game. You refused, which means that from now on, I can create as many fictional characters, X's, outside of the 18 as I want. Do as you wish. I have refused to repeat what you have told me. Isn't that enough for now? The reason for my refusal is... No, I won't tell you yet. Anyway, you'll know soon enough. Still acting tough, I see. Choosing not to use the red is another way of using it. You called it my red treasured sword. A pleasant metaphor. I will use it too. A treasured sword is at its best when it's sheathed. In fact, there are times it can instill even more fear because it is sheathed. That's right. As I fight, I always have to keep in mind whether you might spin everything around with those red words. It's some pretty serious pressure. And there are also times when you make things pretty tough by refusing to repeat after me. Those times I can't tell if you can't repeat because my guess was right, or if you're just misleading me and letting me flounder about. If you think about it that way, yeah, it's a sheathed treasured sword. So what? If I'm going to push you off a cliff anyway, best to let you climb a bit higher first. We have still barely begun. Much is left to come. I'll resign from this challenge. Go and get drunk on your faint victory for now, but only for now. Yeah. Practically speaking, the early part of the game ended with her being a sore loser. Even so, I couldn't relax my guard at all. That tension didn't fade one bit until I was greeted by the sound of Renove's applause. Spectacular, Battler-sama! Perhaps you have started this game with an advantageous development. Who knows? I still don't know whether I've taken a piece by my move, or whether she guided me into taking it. After all, knowing you, you probably know I'm being led into a trap, and that clapping is just you mocking me openly, right? How could you think that? I am innocently celebrating your ability, which has enabled you to take one shot at Milady, even though it is only the first round. In any event, my lady is a person who is quick to become arrogant. I believe that a little encouragement such as this can be good medicine every once in a while. This butler of yours sure has a vicious tongue. He does, doesn't he? Sometimes he ticks me off as well. My, how incredibly rude of me. Well then, my lady, Battler-sama, I do appreciate that you use the sama in regards to me. I mean, thank you. I mean, I don't trust you because, you know, there's lots of implications about nefarious things in regards to you, but I appreciate the politeness. How would you like some more black tea? The game has still barely begun. Please allow me to prepare all the tea and snacks needed to adorn this game. I ask that you continue a game without any reservations. I will. Let's move forward. Now is when it really starts. If you eat cookies in a hyperbolic time chamber, do you get fat? Very well. Let us advance the clock. Renove, black tea, please. Certainly. How about a cookie? I don't need one. Give it to Beelzebub to keep her happy. Remain silent for now. While listening to the sound of the demon butler pouring tea, the witch closed her eyes slightly and fell silent. For some time she was deeply lost in thought, but eventually a roguish glint came into her eyes. Very well. Why don't I inform you now as to why I refused to speak in red during that first move? What? Bring it on. Show me what you've got. Cackle. Yes, that piece really was big enough that I'd hate to lose it. It may be hasty, but allow me to make my move. I won't use the red, but from here on Rosa will explain on my behalf. Listen. Okay? Of course I think the same way.